What is an overly romanticized job? Chef. It's not all creativity and celebrity. It's almost entirely grunt work. Danger. Injury. And long hours resulting in missed time with family. I have a friend who works as a sous chef and he assured me that while he likes cooking, the long hours is going to kill him in the long run. Working at an animal shelter. Everyone thinks that you get to sit around and love on animals all day. But in reality you are exposed to a lot of death and the worst of human nature. And the pay sucks because people just can't quit it because they want to help. Dog groomer here. So many people say you get to play with dogs all day. Okay. You wanna squeeze a dog's asshole? Get bit and scratched? Get yelled by owners? Wrestle with dogs through the washer and dryer? And of course the shit, piss, and vomit. I completely understand. From what I understand. Private investigator. Bunch of boring research and chasing leads to dead ends. Nothing like any TV show. It's 49. 95% chasing insurance scammers with 49. 95% following a cheating spouse with a 1% looking for a lost family member or custody case or something semi-interesting. Working as a lawyer isn't anything like on TV. Are you telling me lawyers don't go shouting objection when pointing out a major flaw in someone's testimony? Or hold it when pressing a witness or take that when presenting evidence? Or that every case ends up becoming a murder trial? How has this not been said already? Video game developer. So many people want to go into video games thinking they will get to design a game. The reality is 99.9% of people that work on video games get no creative input at all. That just make place test assets exactly as they are told. All the while being forced to work 60-70 hours a week in a terrible work environment. With shit pay compared to other devs. Also, so many people also want to make games. Without understanding the work that needs to be done learning first. For some reason some of my old co-workers got in their heads that my traveling sales job was whisking me away to exotic places and gourmet meals on the company dime. No. No no no. Unless you think Syracuse is basically Paris and eating a poorly wrapped burrito while driving because you don't have time to stop for lunch between appointments is fine dining. Sales is not sexy. It's a lot of drinking alone and working late nights in hotels with shit internet. If you have a family it's hard on your partner because they're taking the kids several nights in a row. You'll miss a lot of you don't have the freedom to schedule around your personal life. I'm glad I got out. Saddest part for me was on the road one time going out to a solo dinner, as usual, and being sat with a candle and rose in the middle of the table. I looked around and saw every other table was a couple and only then did it hit me it was Valentine's Day. Architect. Seems like lots of good rom-com boyfriends are architects. In reality, the hours are long. The stress is extremely high. And pay is really poor for a skilled profession. Edit, I'm an interior designer. And it never stops surprising me that I make far more money than architects. With far less training. I do have plenty of experience. No one makes as much as the general contractor, though. Writer. You picture yourself at a typewriter in a cabin by a lake. Crackling fire in the fireplace. A golden retriever asleep at your feet and a glass of Lagavulin in your hand dreaming up the next great American novel. Contrast that to reality where the writing jobs that actually pay the bills usually involve long nights and weekends sitting in a cube farm writing the instructions that come with a toaster that nobody will ever read while your spouse fucks her co-workers. Oh dear. If it makes you feel better. I did read the instructions that came with my toaster. All jobs according to these comments. Counterpoint, I am an accountant and no one glorifies accountants. Zookeeper. You spend most of your time cleaning poop and you're paid like shit. Veterinarian overworked. Underpaid. Underappreciated. Extraordinarily high suicide rate. People thinks it hugging puppies and kittens and doing it all for the love of animals. Then get pissed when they actually expect to be paid and call them heartless money-grubbing pet killers when they can't afford to treat their pet. Chef. Lots of getting screamed at. It takes a really big person not to pass that down the line. Lots of work. Lots of expertise. Little pay. Little appreciation. Of the multiple chefs I know, all of them drink. Pretty much any fun job. If a ton of other people want the job, be prepared to be overworked and underpaid. I managed a bookstore that was one of 4 privately owned locations across the South. In an annual meeting, the owners were complaining about how difficult it was to retain employees. They were only paying them $10 an hour. I brought up the fact that cost of living had skyrocketed in my city, and even Cookout's starting pay was $13.50 with benefits even for part-time. They cut me off mid-sentence and said, but people want to work here, so we don't need to pay that much. As a manager, I couldn't even afford a 1-room apartment by myself. Fun job and great co-workers. But I do not miss working for, and being taken advantage of by, those people. Film worker. Hours are grueling. Production doesn't give a fuck about you. Good luck spending time with your kids. And most of us are addicts, drunks. And the mass influx of cash followed by a dessert for any amount of time until you find the next gig. Fashion. Why don't you have your own brand? Bitch. Do I look like I can afford to ship a container of shirts made in Pakistan for 3 cents to compete with some fashion conglomerate? Everything at fashion sucks. Anyone can do it with no degree. Pay is shit. Hours are shit. People are bitchy and soulless. The industry is shameless and zero conscious at sustainability. You will work and study very hard to lose a position to a model-looking daughter of some rich guy. It's basically become a profession for rich girls who don't know what to do and like consuming goods. The very few people who make it usually do it for reasons other than talent. Airline pilot. People think you area like Leonardo DiCaprio in Catch Me If You Can, swaggering through the airport, wearing sunglasses, surrounded by hot flight attendants. In reality, we're like glorified bus drivers whose job is 1% excitement and 99% absolute boredom, just sitting in a cockpit waiting for life to pass by. Military pilot here. People can't wait to jump ship to the airlines because military life sucks. This post made me sad. Night at medieval times. Those guys start to squeeze and deal with tons of grunt work, and when they become knights, hours are still terrible, but now you risk very serious injuries during practice or during a show. All of my friends that have worked or work there have had multiple surgeries. Broken bones. You name it. They do like having the spotlight on them, and they're like brothers but usually hate it after a while. This is a very specific post. Never thought about it. Being a vet. Having to put down pets and deal with animals that have been treated terrible takes a toll. Not to mention the ungrateful and abusive clients. There's plenty of wonderful clients too, that make everything worthwhile, but the horrid ones stand out. Long hours and shit pay just to be told you're heartless for charging someone barely enough to keep the clinic doors open. And the easy access to strong sedatives, narcotics and anesthesias. It's no wonder vets have one of the highest rates of suicide among all professions. Video game testing. I had a boyfriend who did it for several years, so I know all too well that it's a horrible job. You play the same 5 minutes of game over and over again. Hundreds of times, sometimes thousands. The job kinda killed his passion for gaming. And as far as I know, he still doesn't play anything for fun. I do some testing for a game as a side job. I just need to play fairly normally for a few hours every time an update is nearly ready to go out. And even that has lost its charm quite quickly. I can't imagine it would be any fun doing it full time and just testing the same small sections repeatedly. Reading this thread. I'm starting to think work in general is overly romanticized our culture. To the point where people sacrifice their relationships, their time, and their happiness in pursuit of a misrepresentation of a career they chose. I think a lot of people feel so committed to their choices and pressured by society that once they realize that their job isn't what they expected, they just white knuckle it to retirement. Everyone around me is like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What are you going to do to move up in your organization? And it's just like, nowhere and nothing. I don't make a shit ton of money, but I'm in a position where I make more than enough. I can log off at work at normal hours and still have enough energy to do things I love. Why the fuck do I want to add more to my plate? Especially shit I don't really all that care about. We just put too much effort on working and not enough on living. The trades. People on Reddit seem to pitch it as the only sensible career choice. But a lot of them will just destroy your body. I know a guy with a desk job who used to be an electrician. He opted to go back to school, get a business degree, and took a huge pay cut when he looked at the older guys who were electricians. Their bodies were shot. Military. It's 99% standing around waiting to hear orders from a bordering on inept superior. The paperwork is never ending. You're long periods of time away from home and will probably get divorced. Also, your knees and back will go to shit. Like my first sergeant used to tell me, hurry up and wait. Academia. First of all, most people undergrads call professors aren't actual professors, by rank. And people who aren't professors are likely not getting paid a whole lot above the poverty line. Have few to no benefits. Have little to no input on what they teach or how. Not to mention having to put up with nonsense I've not seen or heard of in any other field. The amount of unpaid labor that goes into getting a single article published is unreal. PhD chemist here. Can confirm. Market is, unbeknownst to many, saturated. Only way to get a good academic job is to come from an Ivy League school. Otherwise, adjunct, and if lucky years of grunt work at pathetic pay followed by a big maybe. And industry jobs have shit for job security. Lose a job? Okay. Well, next PhD level position is 100 miles away. I said fuck it. And went to nursing. At least this pays okay. And has job security. Not that it's romanticized, but advertising got a bunch of spotlight when Mad Men came out, and it's nothing like that. It's looking at data and managing spreadsheets and whatnot. It's heavily technical and process oriented these days. Can confirm. Was so excited to start my career at a giant media agency, until I realized media planning was literally staring at an Excel sheet and making numbers go vroom. Was fired after 3 months for being terrible at my job, lol. Venetian gondola operator. Probably. I have a real problem with those guys. FBI special agent. I dated a woman who was with FBI and she enjoyed what she did most of the time, but wow was it dry. Imagine sitting in a car watching a house for 6 hours, then going back to the office and spending a few hours writing a report. Or looking through 10 years of purchase records and receipts that you pulled out of the trash to build a case. Or sitting in a room at midnight listening in on a dude having phone sex with his mistress. The overwhelming majority of her job was writing reports, status updates, and reviewing financial documents in an office. The hours were terrible. The work seemed boring. And the bureaucracy was thick. Brewer. Generally poor pay to be a glorified janitor. Fuck this. I'm going to post on Ask and see if there is a job that is as romantic as it sounds. It is exactly as romantic as it sounds. It really is a bunch of nerdy guys in a basement spending most of the day on Reddit and acting like we're swamped with work. Man, every job fucking sucks. EMS and paramedics. We're not some heroes who save lives. Saving lives is about 10% of the job. The other 90% is dealing with a broken healthcare system. Getting paid minimum wage. Dealing with patients who don't need help and abuse the already broken healthcare system. And if you're lucky, working for a company that doesn't give a shit about you. The shit that blows my mind is you get paid literally like minimum wage. You make more money if you go work a register. The fuck? Uniformed communities are always toxic but it just seems like EMS is tricking kids with the idea of prestige and heroism. Sucking them dry. And dumping them somewhere else for the next generation to take to the hospital after a failed suicide. Fucking wild. Healthcare maybe not so much, since the pandemic has shown a spotlight on healthcare. But being a nurse, RT, doctor, CNA, EVS is hard work physically, mentally, and emotionally. I always found the sexy nurse thing funny too. I can promise you nothing I did on my shift today was sexy unless you're into poop, dead bodies and sputum. The last thing you should want to do is touch me in my scrubs. Librarian. Oh. You get to sit around and read in a nice quiet environment all day, ha. Ha 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 ha. Yep. No. It's like working in a kindergarten class for psychopaths. Journalist. Long hours. Weekends. Holidays. Middle of the night. Pay sucks, especially in non-profit journalism, and being so plugged into the news every day is depressing. I worked in journalism for 16 plus years. Maybe I did it wrong, but never once did I sleep with sources to get information, nor did I ever blow some giant story wide open. And worst of all, I met zero superheroes. TV and movies lied. Teaching. Yeah, you get summers, nights, weekends, and holidays off, but it's the most frustrating, mentally and emotionally draining job I've ever had. You aren't paid enough for what you have to endure. Can't believe I had to scroll so far to find this. It's way tougher than I ever imagined it could be. Ultrasound tech. You don't look at babies all day. An ultrasound tech found a blood clot trying to make its way into my brain. I love you guys. I'm in another oft overly romanticized healthcare field. EMS. It was so weird to be really close to stroke or death personally, rather than professionally. Animal husbandry. Animals don't know if you're helping or hurting. They peck, scratch, and bite regardless. And so many bad smells and disease. Oh, the disease. It doesn't matter if you're not raising them for meat. I wouldn't recommend getting attached. Chances are one of their organs will just decide to fill up and they'll starve themselves to death. Throwing zookeeper in with this. No, I don't swim with alligators, ride elephants, pet monkeys, and nap with tortoises all day. I am a 4-year biology degree plus multiple years experience to get hired barely above minimum wage pooper scooper and water bowl washer. Working in music. Most of the industry runs on contingent and part-time workers. Full-time jobs are difficult to get, so if you're one of the others you're constantly chasing your next gig. During busy parts of the year you're too busy to have a life, and the slower parts of the year you're broke. I worked in it for 4-5 years. It was a lot of fun though. Trucking. In over 42 plus years I saw the finest warehouses in 43 states and 2 Canadian provinces. There are 0 shows movies accurately showing trucking for what it is. It's a soul-sucking exercise in frustration. There are positive aspects in that you can generate a decent paycheck without extensive education or advanced training. All it will cost you is your soul, your friends, your family, and your health. You son of a bitch. I'm in. Scientist, artist, chess player, musician. It's mostly drudgery, not brilliance. Eureka moments, and the pursuit of passion. As an artist, it's mostly poverty. Every engineering job I've had is pretty boring, and Excel and PDF editors were my most used applications. Engineering is either boring as shit or stressful as shit. Brewing beer. Most of your day is just cleaning and you're wet almost all of the time. As a brewer I also third this. But I still love it. People always say, man, I would love your job. All you probably do is drink beer all day long. Hoo hoo hoo. Farming. Sons of the land. My foot. I feel like we, as a society, have kinda agreed that farming is hard and sucks. And we're also simultaneously thankful that anyone still wants to do it because it's so important for society to function. Doctors work long hours. They often don't really get breaks. They have a huge amount of debt to pay off from school. And the insurance they have to maintain is ridiculous. They don't make nearly as much as they should. But they still make a lot more than the average person. This goes double for nurses. But they make even less money. My brother and his wife are brainwashing their teenage son into desiring a medical career. I say brainwashing because he has absolutely no desire for it aside from they make lots of money, and I tried to remind them about school. Competing for openings. Debt. Long hours etc, but they just go off what their friends of friends say about it. He will learn like we all did eventually. Anything that results in fame or celebrity. I dated a high-profile actress for a while. It's a difficult thing to navigate, even by proxy. Deleted. Bartender. Late nights. Long hours. Inclination to drink. Customer expectation for free shit. All it does is make you want a stable job. Best example of money isn't everything. Barista. Turns out this is not my coffee shop. Or reading the comments, it's basically any job. Pirates. Wasn't the majority of said romanticization on the part of Robert Louis Stevenson's Treasure Island? And all the pirate tropes he introduced? Marine Corps, specifically infantry. It's very overly romanticized. Commercials make it seem like all we do is run and gun, shoot and blow stuff up. But in reality you'll spend months just sitting on your butt doing nothing. And if you're one of the new guy, boots, then you'll be cleaning all day every day. Mopping and sweeping. Edit, words. Geologist. In school you go camping. Learn cool stuff about the earth and get to have all these ideals about saving the world. In a career you manage construction workers who dislike you at best and are often a field bitch to collect contaminated dirt or test soil compaction on construction sites. Good luck getting a job without a very rough field component. I lucked out and work in mining. And at least get to do fairly interesting work often. But it still is a drag compared to what I thought I'd get to do, and the people I went to school with are drowning in rough jobs or unemployed. Flight attendant, unless you are union and working there for 30 years. They get paid peanuts. Humanitarian work overseas. People imagine you selflessly save starving babies. In reality it's a commute to a desk job and staring at a computer all day. So almost every job here. So, apparently every job is overly romanticized? At least every job with an overly positive image. Because the truth is that working just sucks sometimes. Especially so if you expected something different and place a lot of hope on becoming happy through your job. If you're happy anyway and don't expect your job to live up to expectations you built in high school, a lot of jobs can be pretty fun. Professional gambling. Poker players. Card counters. Sports bettors. Etc. I know several who make their living from this. And they lead relatively boring outside lives with the same work hours as a car salesman, nights and weekends. A casino atmosphere gets old quick when you're there all the time. I work in a casino and have worked in 2 now to this point. Professional gamblers are few and far between and tend to be entirely unhappy and unruly. Hell yeah. My planned job isn't on here. What's the job I am or is on a job nobody hates yet? Being a journalist. Especially if you, like me, are not in the US Europe. You need to go astronomically out of your way to find something worth telling. It doesn't matter how many things out of your control are happening. You need to find 2-3 stories per day. Every day. Check it. Tell them in a journalistic way and watch people doubt it because communist aliens control the media. And you are not even paid well. Forensic investigators. CSI made it look sexy AF. Can confirm, my wife is a CSI and most of what she deals with is tragic suicides. Surprisingly immature police officers. And stressful work environments. None of them are paid enough for what they have to deal with. Being a famous fashion designer. There is a lot of stress to make and sell product at a pace that gets faster every year. Some of the greatest creators like Alexander McQueen had taken their own lives. Martin Margiela left due to disillusionment and depression with his brand being corporatized. He has panic attacks still as shown in his documentary in his own words even though he's stopped working for over a decade. Helmut Lang left to do fine art and sculpture. There are many examples. Second this. Even Kate Spade killed herself. Her collections were just so happy and cheerful but she was depressed from what I've read. You love your work and love to create but the business side of things are a completely different ballgame. A lot of brands are popular not because of originality but because of connections. President of the United States. Truly the worst job. You get told all the crappy things that happened as soon as you wake up. Think about that. Every morning starts with a briefing about bad stuff. Every single day. You will never drive a car on a public road again. You will never be truly alone. Ever. You can't order a pizza on a Friday night. You can't go to the grocery store alone. You can't book a weekend getaway and just go at the last minute. Look at picture of any president on day 1 and then 4 years later. That job destroys you. Think about this. Need to poop? Guess what? There is someone outside the room waiting for you. Every job sucks. The best jobs are working on some boring highly technical complex niche where your boss doesn't fully understand what you do and therefore is unable to gauge how hard you're working. I hear actuaries are like this. Also many branches of it. Even better if you can do the job remotely from a beach in a low-coal country. Animator. The field is unbelievably competitive and the work is more difficult and mentally draining than anyone outside the field would ever guess. Wouldn't trade it though. Don't truenet format on truenet format and truenet form. Fuck. Vet med. I'm a vet tech and tons of people think we just play with puppies and kitties all day. I can assure you. The majority of the time I'm frantically running to do things from cleaning up every type of excrement you can imagine, to incredibly technical tasks like anesthesia and surgery. All with a fraction of the pay and respect of human medicine. Not to mention the lovely owners who refuse to bring their pet in until their minor issue becomes a life-threatening emergency. Despite its hardships, I absolutely love what I do and I'm incredibly grateful to help any animal I can. Slightly smiling face. Lifestyle blogger. They literally can make their world appear perfect. Whether it's a travel blogger, mommy blogger, fitness blogger, etc. The dark stuff of life is right outside the picture frame. Thank you. I'm so tired of seeing perfect all over the internet. It took me a long time to realize that's never a reality and it's okay if my house is not bright and white and my schedule isn't perfectly manicured. And neither are my nails. Etc. Writing. The dream. Writing your great American novel while thoughtfully sipping chai in a nice cafe or your tastefully vintage workspace. Reality. Crying. Train conductor. Freight trains tend to run at night. Second this. Currently in a hotel 150 miles away from home after a 12-hour day that involves ripping out a drawer head. That being said, there is nothing like this job and for some odd reason I missed it a lot while I was on furlough. Writer or journalist. They don't show the missed deadlines. The agonizing creative process. Selling out to write clickbait or the shitty wages. Not everyone can be Carrie Bradshaw. Data science. The sexiest job of 21st century. Bartender. Doling out poison to lonely people until they reach a point where they don't hate themselves and feel comfortable participating in society. Watching others slowly and subconsciously shorten their time while numbing the pain of an unfulfilling existence. It is pretty good money in the US for unlicensed therapy. Being an English monarch. Anything with work travel. It sucks. I used to go to France a lot for work. Ooh. Must be nice. I'd love to go to France. Did you go to insert landmark attraction? No. I went to do the same job in a different place with worse food and harder to understand people. Military. Lots of dumb BS and time away from family. Really surprised people aren't saying this. University professor. If you work at a non-research institution, it's not all that bad. But it's when research is expected. It becomes a slog. There is so much work to be done and so little time to do it. You're almost always working late. Grading papers and exams in your own private time at home. Academia is a huge dick measuring contest. 2. Everyone is fighting to prove they're the smartest or that their intelligence is valid. It can quickly become a cesspool of narcissism. The environment is incredibly cutthroat. Even worse. Any profit gained from research or whatever almost exclusively goes to publishers and administration. Professors themselves see very little of it. Vet. It's not all petting puppies and feeding carrots to horses. I'm a therapist and I know from my experience that people think it's easy. My friends and family just assume I go in and talk about feelings and that's about it. There can be some really rough days and sometimes it gets me as well. I love my job. But it can be emotionally draining. It's definitely not an easy job and it isn't always exciting like how some people make it seem to be on TV. Being in law enforcement. I was a cop and it was either incredibly boring or borderline terrifying. Worked in homicide and it's 99% paperwork. Plus seeing dead bodies frequently isn't very fun. My current job is pretty much a mixture but mainly paperwork still.